The truth.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Because I'm so into doing reviews and like, you know, monthly favorites and things like that. I never actually done videos where it's like talking about like a specific, well, I've probably done it before, but I haven't done it in a while, where I talk about something like in a specific category. And today we're gonna be talking about full coverage foundations, and there are going to be concealers, but this is mostly going to be about the foundations. The main reason I prefer full coverage, not necessarily because I always want full coverage foundation, because I feel like full coverage isn't like an everyday thing for me, but the reason I prefer full coverage foundations is because you can shear them out to make them look more lighter in coverage, and I prefer that over having a light coverage foundation that I would either need to like really build up or have to use a lot of concealer with afterwards. And I just feel like having a full coverage foundation on you gives you more room for like options, I guess. And I'm gonna go through each category, I suppose. So I'll put timestamps up here on the screen to if you want to skip to a specific product. And of course, in the info box, I'll put all of the like timestamps for each product and also like prices and things like that. And of course, it's all gonna be like, because especially with Korean makeup, you're probably going to be ordering it from online. I'm going to try to find the price on the original, like the brand's website, and put it down there, and that will give you like an idea of what the price should be or is around. But basically, my requirements for a product to go into this category is that for foundation specifically, it has to be to where I feel like I don't need concealer on my face. If it's my dark circles, I don't mind because my dark circles are really bad anyway, so I have to go with concealer anyway, and also it's gonna look too gray if I just use foundation on my eyes to cover those dark circles. So it has to be super full coverage, and I don't need to build it up too much. And yeah, that's pretty much basically it, a full coverage foundation. So starting with cushions, this is actually the one I'm using today. It's the Clio Kill Cover, and I've actually talked about this before in like maybe 2 or 3 videos, and it was always a little frustrating for me when I went to edit the video because I'll be like, oh my god, you have to be careful because this is so full coverage. And each time I actually used it, I felt like I used it in like, basically just didn't show how full coverage it could be because I was using it so lightly, which is fine or whatever, but I want to be like, oh, it's not full coverage, and then only use it like in a medium coverage sort of way. And so people are like, really? That doesn't look like full coverage. But I'm actually wearing it on my skin today, and sorry. And I didn't go, like, I don't need any concealer afterwards, and this is just one layer all over. But the thing is, with this formula, I do kind of have to keep dipping back in. Not because I need more coverage, but just because I feel like it sets pretty quickly on the skin with the formula in the way that the cushioning here just dispenses the product onto the puff. Like, I just need to keep going back in. But the formula is really thin, actually, and it's not super matte. There is a little, like, it looks skin-like, I guess. So I really like this one, and just really sad that I wish I had more colors in this. And my issue, as I've said many times before with Clio, is that their foundation colors don't match across each foundation line. So what is linen in one thing is not going to be the same linen in another line of foundation. They're going to be kind of off. But I did have to put bronzer because I feel like this would be more my winter shade. So I did put like contouring and all that around my face. Next up is should not be a surprise to you. These are the Pony Effect cushions. More specifically this one, the Everlasting one, the first one she came out with. And I was really surprised by how full coverage that this can get. And one thing that I really noted whenever I suggested this to anyone is that you really only need a little bit. Because although you can build it up to a full coverage, I feel like one dip was enough for my whole face, especially when it's brand new. When you're using it more and you're starting to use up the product, you might need a little bit more, but really it's going to be full coverage for the most part. What I really enjoy about this is that it does give like a fresh, dewy, natural look to the skin. And there is a matte version, but honestly, this formula is a little bit more finicky. It can make your skin look dry, especially if you use it with like a primer, like a silicone based primer to help fill in pores. I feel like the two just don't go well together, so I think you should just use this on top of your skincare basically, and let it do its work. And try not to put like powder foundation on top because that can make it look extra cakey. But as you can see what I mean by how it can be quite finicky. With this one, if you have oily skin, you can just put powder or use a primer with this one. But yeah, just like the other one, it gives really good coverage. And it does come in 7 shades now, and this would probably be like second to deepest shade, which is still a shame, but you know, if you fit within like up to like a MAC NC 30, which is what would sand be, or like a in Korean foundation shades, it would be like a number 25. That would be their sand, which is their deepest shade. So yeah, I really like the 25, and that comes with a refill in it. So although it's a little bit more on the pricey side, if you factor in that with the refill, then I think it's a pretty good price. Now, if you have more dry skin, this isn't a cushion. This is the Too Cool for School Dino Platz La Ola cushion, like balm foundation, but it's like in the format of like a cushion, so that's why I'm including it. But I used to talk about this a long time ago, back in the day, but I actually still have it. I did get a new one though, so you can see I didn't really go into it that much. But it's a cream foundation, and this I was really surprised at how full coverage this is. And also because it is a cream, you can sheer it out to make it look more natural. But the thing is, it only comes in 2 shades, which is again a shame. But the formula is really creamy and soft and buildable, very, very, very buildable. And again, it's full coverage. Would be careful though. Really only recommend this for super dry skin, because if you have normal skin, maybe you can powder it. I would powder it, and then if you have oily skin, it's gonna slip and slide. Another thing though that's really special about this one is that it comes with a separate slot that has like a cream blush, and you can also put this on your lips. It comes with a highlighter. I know the actual cushion version of this, like there's a cushion that has a primer in there, but this one's a highlighter, and then there's like a under eye concealer. Well, it's just a concealer. It's almost similar to this one, but it's more matte, like the formula. And I like this because I can use it under my eyes. Because like I said, even if I have a full coverage foundation, I feel like it's a waste of time to build it up under my eyes because my dark circles would be gray anyway. So I think it's great that it comes with a separate concealer. But yeah, this is good for dry skin. Another one I really like for dry skin would be the Nakeup Face Waterking Cover Cushion. I've like hoard the shit out of this. Like I talk about it all the time, and I do have a review video on this, and in that one I was shocked at how full coverage it is, and how thin the formula is, and how well the formula like lasts. Even though it's a super, super dewy, glowy foundation, it creates a film on the skin, so like it lasts all day, and it's easy to, if you need to touch up, it builds really easy on top of itself and doesn't get cakey. And even though I get fine lines here, it doesn't, as long as I don't build it up too much under my eyes, it doesn't really crease at all there. And they do have one for oily skin, the Waterking Cover Cushion, but I just didn't include it in this video because that one is full coverage as well. But I feel like this one is a little bit more full coverage, but like the difference isn't that much. So I guess if you have oily skin, you can get the pink version, but I vastly prefer this one, only because for me, although I have oily skin, if I have to use a foundation that's glowy, like in the summer, when my skin is really acting up with oil, then I can just powder it, because I feel like sometimes mattifying foundations don't look that good on my skin, especially because I have textural issues, and I just feel like it will make them look worse. So that's why that's why you don't see me using a lot of matte foundations. Alright, now on to liquid foundations. This one is a really good one for its price. The Saem Cover Perfection Concealer Foundation. I have a review on this, and this is one of the ones that I actually tried this only because everyone seemed to hate it, but I actually like it. I really like to use it with this Skin Food Wedge Puff, and a lot of people say that you can use this instead of a beauty blender, but the thing is, although you get the same, like it blends out foundation the same as a beauty blender, you actually get a different finish with this one. With a beauty blender, because you're using it damp, you should be using it damp, you're gonna retain a lot more like of a natural, well, not dewy, but like more of a natural finish, or whatever the finish the foundation was originally meant to be in. But if you use the Skin Food Wedge Puff, this actually is meant to be used dry. I guess you can wet it, but I feel like it doesn't soak up water at all. But it actually, if you're using this sponge regularly, it gives you more of a matte finish. So, I don't know, I feel like using this with any foundation actually keeps a lot more of that coverage, because it's not, I mean, of course you can see it soaks up product, but I just feel like it, because we're keeping the foundation more matte, it's leaving a lot of the pigment behind. So if it sucks up anything, it's mostly the moisture in that foundation. So if you use this sponge, which I like to use with a lot of my foundations, it will give you more coverage, I feel like. But anyway, this is a really good foundation. I feel like, from my experience, for its price, it's not too expensive. I think it's like $12-ish. And it's one of those foundations that has like a, kind of concealer tip looking, like a giant concealer tip looking thing. It's supposed to be the foundation version of their famous tip concealer, and that's the thing, a lot of people were so hyped about this because the tip concealer was so famous, and a lot of them were just like disappointed by this. But I think it might have been because they were just disappointed by how it's not as full coverage as the concealer. But to me, it's still pretty full coverage, but I don't need it to be like more than the concealer, because if that was the case, then like why release the concealer, if that makes sense? So as a foundation, I think this is really great coverage. And although I wouldn't say it's as full coverage as maybe this right here, it's like if full coverage is 100%, it would be at like an 80%, I feel like. And especially if you're using it with a sponge, I think you're gonna get really great. I'm gonna use the word coverage so many times throughout this video, so sorry, but that's what this whole thing is about. These two foundations I'm gonna kind of like squish together because I feel like they kind of perform and look the same on the skin, but this is the Pony Effect Coverstay Foundation, and this is the Clio Conceal-dation. And they're both supposed to be full coverage foundations that last long throughout the day, but I find that these two are actually more on the not dewy-ish, sorry. It's more like the natural skin side because, again, I'm not really into super matte foundations because they can end up looking dry on my skin, but these two I feel like are really versatile. I use these all the time on people whenever I'm doing someone else's makeup because I can either sheer it out or I can like give them really full coverage, but the finish is always more on the natural side. So I really like these two. Now if that's what you're looking for, but you want more of like a matte-ish finish, these two are really, really good. The Etude House Double Lasting and the Etude Triple Wear, all these fucking names. But like you can tell that they're both very similar to like the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. Oh my god, Double Lasting, Triple Wear, oh lord. But they're at like a much cheaper price. This one was around $12, I believe, and this one, I think they came out with it, I think they recently reduced the price on this to like 12, well in dollars it would be like 12-ish dollars, like 13,000 won or so. I pretty much, same thing about with these other two foundations, but this is more on the matte side. This is super focal, like it's no joke. And this one is also the same way. This is slightly thicker, and this one is more on the like thinner side because there are a lot of foundations that are like long wearing or like really full coverage, but they're that really thin long wearing formula, and although that formula is more thin, there is a risk of it looking drier on the skin and really sucking the moisture from your skin. So although this is, I feel like this is like the tiniest bit more full coverage. They're both full coverage obviously, but this one is like tiniest bit more coverage, but it's a little bit thicker than this one. But this one's thinner, but it's more, it can end up looking a little drier, so you need to make sure your skin is more like you really moisturize your skin. Alright, and last but not least, the concealers. I'm gonna start with the liquid concealers. The Saem one, should not have to talk about this because it's so well known, I feel like at this point. It's just a really thin, like, it's like a very basic concealer, but it's like really thin, but it doesn't lose coverage when you're blending it out. I really like to use it like not exactly right under my eyes, but I like to use it because I'll use foundation, right? And a lot of times I'll be using like a medium coverage foundation, so I'll still have the redness here, and what I will do is I'll put it between where the dark circle is and that redness, because there is like a slight spot right here where it's more like even in skin tone. I'll put it right there and I'll blend it out, and then it will just make this whole part even, and therefore my entire face will look more even in skin tone, if that makes sense. I like to do that with most liquid concealers because lately I haven't really been having an issue with acne anymore, so I won't really have to spot conceal unless it's something like on my neck or like around my jawline. So I'll put foundation all over, and then I'll kind of like concentrate more like the coverage here to really unify the color of my skin tone. So that's generally where I'll put like my liquid concealer. I think this is too bright. See, I'm like adjusting this lighting like in the middle of the day. I apologize for that. I guess like the older sister, I suppose, of that would be the Kill Cover liquid concealer. I feel like this is also another really famous one. The only real difference I feel like would be that this is slightly thicker, I suppose. So I can probably get away with like a light coverage foundation and then use this on top. And I think I really like this color better than this one. This is a little bit more yellow, I feel like, which I feel like is good for me. This one is more on the neutral side, but it's still, I like this one though because it's not too pinky, which is an issue that a lot of concealers, like base products, tend to have. So this is more yellow, this one's more neutral, but honestly I like to switch between these two, and I really don't see that much of a difference between them, other than the price. So I know if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, this is definitely the way to go because it's so freaking cheap. In this one, it's kind of in between. The formula's a little thicker than this one, but it's not as thick as this one, I feel like. And the price is kind of actually between the same, so it's right in the middle. Only thing is though, this only comes in 2 shades, but it is part of their ink line, so that means you're gonna get like long wearability, etc, etc. But I don't know, I just like how it's a liquid concealer that can remain, when you blend it out, it still looks like your skin, but you don't lose coverage, so there's like no point in putting it on, because I hate having concealer that's like, you put it on, you blend in, like it disappears. What's the point in concealer if it's gonna disappear? And that tends to be an issue with liquid concealers. Oh shit, sorry, I'm having to come to you like this. But I forgot to talk about the Pro Fit Liquid Concealer from Pony Effect. This is one of the most high coverage concealers I've ever used in my life. And the thing is, when I first tried it, it's super liquidy, but, and you know, I was worried because I thought it would be one of those ones that like blend away into nothing when you blend it in. This is like pure liquid pigment. I like this little, what would you, it's almost like a paddle applicator. It's like this sort of shape. So I can use a tip to kind of like dot if there's like maybe a blemish that I need to cover, or like a hyperpigmentation, and I can use the long wide side to kind of cover a wide area. I really like to use this concealer in a lighter color than my foundation to not only like brighten this area, but this is good for those people because there are a lot of people that will put foundation all over and then use a really light concealer right here simply for just brightening under their eye, not necessarily for coverage. This is good for both of those things because, I mean, I can brighten with a lighter color concealer, but also it has such high coverage that it's also covering everything from here. So what I often like to do is just use a light coverage foundation all over and then use this concealer in particular to not only brighten here, but also like give me that full coverage effect, I suppose. But because like I'm able to use a little bit, goes such a long way that my skin, it will still look like skin because I have such little product, but what's left is like a really flawless finish because the pigmentation is so high. So if you're looking for that kind of product, I really recommend that concealer. And then finally, we're gonna be talking about like more cream concealers. The Pony Effect Cover Up Pro Concealer, I use like all the time in my videos, and you can tell because I like really hit pan on this one. I love using this with this kind of sponge applicator, and you know, loading it up and then using it under my eyes to like really conceal that dark bit under my eyes, and also, you know, around spots around my face, because I feel like the sponge applicator really blends it out, and it like sucks up the moisture from that cream, so it's just leaving pigment behind. But no matter what I use it with, I also use it under my brows with a angled brush, and I love using this to clean up my brows. The formula is more on like the matte side, but it's still really creamy. Something that's very similar but more for dry skin would be this one from iThought. I feel like you can tell just from that how really moisturizing this is. But even though it's more moisturizing, it still remains full coverage. So I definitely recommend using maybe like a concealer brush with it. You can kind of just like pat under the eyes or wherever you need around your face, and it's really thick, so when you're blending it, it will still retain its coverage, and you're not gonna like blend it away. And I do prefer cream concealers around the face, and although I do use it under my eyes too, just like liquid concealers, if you have like a blemish on the face, I really prefer this one because I feel like it stays on top of that blemish better than like a liquid concealer. Because sometimes if you put a liquid concealer on top of blemishes, it kind of just rubs off or disappears faster throughout the day. That's why when I first got my chin fillers, I don't know, even with my nose fillers, foundation just was not sticking on my nose, so what I had to do was use like cream concealers and foundations on like these parts of my face that were like protruding, which sounds really disgusting. But anyway, if you have a blemish, I definitely recommend cream concealers. And the last product I'm gonna talk about is the Kill Cover Pro Artist Stick Concealer. So it's like those, but it's like a stick version, and I feel like you can use it. I use this under my eyes just today. Same thing with like the sponge applicator. I kind of dabbed it under my eyes. Also will be good for blemishes on the face, and because it's in like a stick format, it's easy to take with you in your bag or something, so you can touch up if you have to throughout the day. And definitely one of those ones that does not disappear. It's like pure pigment basically. It doesn't disappear as you are blending it on the skin. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, this one comes in 4 colors, and this is the only color it comes in, but this is really inexpensive if you were to buy it at .com. I don't know about buying it online though. Alright, that was my video. I hope you guys found that useful. Again, all the information will be down below if there's any products that you want to go back to and review. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.